Hi, everybody. My name is Darren Ryder, and I wanted to welcome you to Cottage Grove Middle School's Washington, D.C. trip information. Now, the first thing you're thinking, you're looking at this page going, it says Cottage Grove Junior High. I've already sent World Strides a message and said, hey, we're middle school. Make sure it's on there. So by the time you receive that, that one will be fixed. So don't worry about that one. So, a little bit of background about myself. I taught at Cottage Grove Middle School for over 20 years. And I've been taking the DC trip. I believe this next trip that we take will be my 23rd or 24th. And I've been running it for either 19 or 20 years now. And so, even though I'm not teaching at the school anymore, I've turned some of the duties over to the two teachers that are there, Mr. Bauman in seventh grade and Mr. Foss in eighth grade, so that they have the in building contact. And then I'll be the person that kind of works with World Strides and does all the organization. And that was one of the things that Mr. Foss, Mr. Bauman, and I talked about last year. Now that I'm teaching at the online school, I wanted to make sure that we had that connection inside the building. And so they said, nope, you do the World Stride stuff, we'll do the school stuff, and we're going to kind of tag team it to make it a great experience for your student. So if you got this far, that means that your student was handed one of these flyers from their social studies teacher. And you also have another piece of paper that's going to look like this. Now, we're going to go over each of these so that you have a good understanding of what's included on the trip, what to expect on the trip, and kind of hopefully a one-stop shop so you can make a good decision of whether you would like to send your student on that trip or not. So, the company that we travel with is called World Strides. Now, they are probably the top travel company in the nation right now. About 15 years ago, they bought up a lot of other smaller companies and kind of created a major company that travels all over. And Washington, D.C. is one of the places, but they're very, very into some international travel stuff too. But we just take the Washington, D.C. trip. Now, when you get that QR code, you're going to get linked to this page right here. This is good. This is all really helpful, especially when you're talking about the registering stuff. But the thing that you're really going to want to pay attention to is this link here that says going to my page. That's going to be this, which we'll use for most of our talk today. So, the other things that you will see on here, though, is it has our trip dates, which is October 17th, 2024, which is a Thursday, to Sunday, the 20th. And the reason we're going over there is with our new school board announcement last year that we could no longer miss school, the students as well as the staff. So if we were going to miss, we'd have to take personal days. But the students, they wanted them in school too, which we completely understand. So to work with them, we switched our trip to Thursday morning. It's going to be bright and early. And then we'll come home, roughly mid afternoon on Sunday. And we'll talk about how we came to that decision, why we made that decision in a little bit. Now, it does have our price here. The price for the trip is $2,124 if you're signed up by January 31st. So just make sure that if you are going on the trip, definitely save that money. And the part of the reason we introduced this trip so early is that people then have enough time to make payments. And World Strides will talk about how they'll contact you for payments, things like that. Now, we're taking what's called a 3-day, 3-night trip. So we'll leave Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll spend all three of those nights. And then because we're coming home a little bit earlier on Sunday, rather than that late return, we call it a 3-day, 3-night instead of a 4-day, 3-night. So what does that include? What does the trip include? Well, pretty much everything. Take a minute and go through the video that you'll see on here. Does a great job kind of showing some things, talking about some of the different things that we'll see. But the easy way to talk about it or to kind of put in perspective what we're going to do, we're going to see everything that we absolutely can in our I call it 4 days, but in the time that we spend in Washington, D.C. Now, we're going to go to this area right here, just so we know this is like we said, this is hopefully that one-stop shop that'll help you answer or have every question that you have answered out of here. So I'm the trip coordinator. You have my email right here. You have my cell phone right here. And then you have this link for a video. This is the video that you're watching. So no need to go to it if you're already watching it. Now, what it does is it covers our trip dates, which we said were Thursday, October 17th to that Sunday, October 20th, 2024. Now, we are going to leave bright and early that Thursday. So that 17th, you can expect a flight anywhere between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. And we get there kind of mid morning, gives us a full day to see everything that we can. We just look at it as if we're going to pay that much money to have your student, or if you're going to pay that much money to have your student come with us, we want to see everything that we possibly can. And so those are our dates right there. Now, our return on that Sunday, we requested a late afternoon flight out, and hopefully that gets us back here like mid-afternoon. And the reason we did that is two reasons. Number one, so that our staff, our chaperones, can make it to work the next day, because people that go on this trip, you are going to be exhausted, students and staff. And so we want to make sure that the students, when they get back, they have a little chance to recharge their batteries too before they have to go back to school that Monday too. Now, they do not have school, it looks like, on our proposed calendar on the 16th. So that gives them a little chance to get ready for the trip, pack, do all that stuff too. Now, the chaperones, we're really fortunate at Cottage Grove Middle School where we have not had to use parent chaperones so far. Not to say that we don't like you, but here's what happens. The students typically say, "Oh, please do not take parent chaperones." And then the chaperones, we're super lucky at Cottage Grove where we have a staff that's willing to take their own personal time to spend with the kids in Washington, D.C. And so we're so fortunate that we have that. And the people that we take, like my team of chaperones is awesome. It's Mr. Bauman, it's Mr. Foss, it's Miss Nelson, it's Mr. Qualley. A lot of times, if we have extra students on the trip, Mr. and Mrs. Dummer will go. The reason I stick with the chaperones that we have, they're amazing. That's just bottom line. They are able to head off things before it even gets to me on the trip. And so it's awesome to have their experience, and they do such a great job. So I'm very, very fortunate, but the students are also very fortunate to have those chaperones be willing and able to spend that time, to make it the best trip possible. The chaperones, they're not worried about sightseeing anymore. They've seen everything probably 10 to 15 times each themselves. And so they're more worried about the security and safety of the student, which is our number one priority on the trip. Now, we talked about the travel company that we go with, and that's World Strides. And we said that they're one of the oldest travel companies, but they are outstanding. We had a ton of trouble on our trip getting home this year. We had a flight cancellation. World Strides went above and beyond to make sure everything was great. And so that's why a big part of why we continue to travel with World Strides. My account rep is the actual best. You hear it from everybody in DC. They're like, if you have this account rep, you're going to get into everything that you want. And that's why we continue to travel with them. They're a great company that provides a great service for the students that choose to go on the trip. So we stick with World Strides. If you decide to register, you're going to need this code right here, this 213930. They're going to ask you that code right away. So just make sure that you have that, and you'll see that on here right there, as well as on our form. So we try to make sure that you have that. Now, we said the cost of the trip was $2,124, and that is a ton of money. And that's why we introduce it now, because we want to make sure that you have time to make payments. Because, like, if I had to write a $2,000 check, I have 3 kids, 2 of them in high school, 1 in college. That $2,000 isn't going to get written right now, but over 6 to 8 months, I can handle that. Okay. And so there's our cost right there. Now, that includes everything for the trip. That is your flight, that's your hotel, that's your buses, that's your food, that's your entrance fees, that's your security at the hotel, that's our tour guides. That is including everything. The only thing a student would need other than what we're providing on this trip is spending money. If you want them to buy their DC hats, their DC sweatshirts, things like that, then you definitely can. And we'll talk about that at our final meeting. But like if I was sending my own student, I would not send them with more than $100, because whatever you send with them, they're going to spend. And so $100 kind of gives them a little bit of leeway to kind of get a sweatshirt, a hat, maybe things like that, maybe some Starbucks, because the next thing we talk about at our hotel, yes, it has a Starbucks. Kids love that. Okay. So that trip price includes all. So that's a one-time fee. That's all you need to pay. Now, the hotel that we stay at is a very nice hotel. It's the Westin Tyson's Corner. I had tried a different hotel with last year's group. I like the Westin way better. So we're going to go back to that hotel. Now, part of the reason I like that hotel so much is it's super easy for our security. And so we have security that's on our floor every single night. And so usually what happens at the hotel, we're in a section usually all by ourselves. Not always, but for the most part, we are. And then we have security guards that are there. And so one of the things that we do to make sure that our students are safe and our chaperones can get some sleep is we have security that's right on our floor with us. And so each night we have something called lockdown, which just means, hey, if it's 10 o'clock, we go into lockdown, that means we're not coming out of our room anymore unless it's an emergency. Now, every student on that trip will have my cell phone. And so if there's an emergency, they can get a hold of me. I'm right on the same floor with them. I'm about 8 doors away, usually from most students. I'm usually right in the middle with students on each side. And so they don't need to come out of their hotel room. They can get a hold of me. But if it's an actual emergency, absolutely, they're coming out of there, right? And then the security gets me, and then we take care of it. But the security just makes sure that they're not coming out just to mess around. They're not coming out to get ice at 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to walk around because, again, security is our number one priority on our trip. The safety of our kids and the security of our kids, number one priority. And so we have guards that are there with us at night. And then I get a little report each morning that just says, hey, things were great, or we had trouble in this room. And if that's the case, then I speak with that room. And if we feel like the people at home, if it's serious enough that they need to know about it, then we make sure that we reach out to the people at home too. Now, our flight, this is the one part of the trip that drives me insane because I can't control it. So, the flight, we are just like any other passenger. And so we are at the mercy of the airlines and of World Strides of getting us the right flights and making sure that everything goes smooth. It usually does, but that's the one part that I don't control. And so we don't even usually get our flight information until about 30 days before the trip. So I know that's hard for planning purposes. So here's the best thing I'll tell you. That Thursday morning, expect to leave, expect to be to the airport about 5 a.m. Now, if it's a little bit later than that, great. And then when we return, mid-afternoon. So if you want kind of some basic guesses, that's my best guess. Super early Thursday, mid-afternoon coming home on that Sunday. Now for the meals, all meals are provided, and typically this is how it works. Everybody eats at the hotel in the morning, so the breakfast is at the hotel, and they'll have everything from eggs and waffles and pancakes and bacon and sausage and donuts and fruit and cereal and yogurt. They have a variety to try to get something there for everybody. So one of the things that we ask as chaperones is that every student eats each day because we walk a lot. We don't need them getting sick or getting kind of wore down because they're not properly hydrated or properly fed. Now, for lunch, those vary a little bit. Many times the students will get a card and we'll go into a place like the Reagan International Trade Center and it'll have 20 places for us to eat. And so they get a card and they go to one of those 20 places that they choose. And that's another way that we try to make it so it fits for everybody so that they have options from salads to sandwiches to pizzas to ice cream to pretzels, whatever it is. And so they use that card and to get what they want for lunch. And then a lot of times our meal at night then is typically a sit down, or one of the nights we go to Pentagon City Mall just so that because we're going to the Pentagon Memorial. And so we go in there and then they have like an hour to kind of go through and they get their choice of restaurants, or we'll go to a couple different places, which are great. We have one that we go to that's ran by a family that's become our family now, and they serve it family style. So it's pizza, chicken, pasta, salads, cookies, all this stuff, and you eat it family style. And we go there when we go out to Mount Vernon, which is a great place. So that's our meal plan. Typically breakfast hotel, lunch they get a card, and at night we're usually a sit down. Now to register, you do not have to pay in full. You have to pay $115 down, and that part's non-refundable. And I get it, there's administrative fees for everything because I've argued with World Strides a lot about this as far as why can it not be refundable? It should be refundable. And they explained to me enough times the administrative costs and then it costs to promote things and do things and take care and sign people up. So I get it. So I've kind of given up fighting with them on that one. So if you do want to register, you can register in a couple different ways. You can call the customer service number here, or you can register online. Now, if you register, either way that you do that, you're going to need that trip ID number. So make sure that you're getting that trip ID 213930, and they're going to ask you, and then they'll get you linked to our trip. Now, you can do that by customer service or online, either one, doesn't matter. And then what happens is they formulate a list for me. I do not deal with any money, so any money goes to World Strides. And so I love if you do it online because that means there's no urge for people to try to give me a check, because what happens then, I just take that check, I send it to World Strides. And so it's kind of nice if you do the online because everything's handled that way. Now, once you're registered, World Strides is really good about contacting you within a week or two and trying to set up a payment plan. And what happens is they'll set up a payment plan to try to have you end in either July or August and make sure that you're paid in full by the time they start to book our tickets. So they typically book our tickets in either, late August, early September, kind of in that range. And so if you're not paid in full, sometimes that they'll question if we should get you a ticket or not. So to avoid that, we just try to say by August 1st, if you can be paid up by then, awesome. If not, trust me, they're still going to work with you. They definitely want your money, right? That's what they're in business for. And so they'll definitely work with you. You just have to kind of make sure that you're in contact with them so they know the situation, and so do we. Now, one of the things that we ask is on your bill, I've asked World Strides to take off their monthly fee that they would charge. And that monthly fee was just an administrative fee. And I'm like, why are we paying $5 a month to make payments for a trip that we're already spending a lot of money on? And so they've agreed to waive that $5 fee. So if you see a $5 fee coming on your bill every month, you can reach out to World Strides to say, hey, that's not supposed to be on there. Cottage Grove Middle School doesn't pay that fee. If it's not off the next month, then let me know, and then I'll contact them and say, hey, take the fee off. Usually it works with you the first month, but if it doesn't and you're frustrated, don't be. Let me know. I'll take care of it for you. Now, they do offer one thing called trip insurance. Now, trip insurance is super expensive, $279. And if you're already paying $2,100 to send your student on here, I put on here, this is completely your choice. Now, I put, it might be wise for you to purchase it. I would not. I'm saying it might be wise for you. I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money, how not to spend your money. Here's what I know. If my student was going on the trip, I would know that they're going. If I was questioning if they were going to back out, then I would buy the trip insurance. But if I knew my student was going for sure, I would say, no, I'm not paying the extra 279. They're going. Now, if something comes up like an emergency, if you contact me, a lot of times I can work with them and get you that full refund. Not guaranteeing again, but I usually have a lot of luck, especially if we're early, if we're before the start of school, then for sure I do. Now, if it's after school, they might have to take out fees for airline fees, stuff like that, but maybe not. If you're going to cancel and you don't have that trip insurance, contact me first. I usually have way more luck, okay? So, completely your choice on the trip insurance. If I was sending my student personally, I would not. And I did send my student 2 years ago. My daughter came with us on the trip. I did not purchase the trip insurance. Now, I have had situations, though, where it worked out perfect for people that had it. So, that is completely your choice on the trip insurance. Now, for the discipline part. Now, I always say this trip is a privilege. I also will tell students, I'm not taking you halfway across the country if you don't know how to behave, especially without your parents there. And so I just work with our other chaperones that are in the school and say, hey, is this person a good fit? Do we need to worry about them? Are we good? And 99% of the time, we're great. We take a lot of students, and a lot of times, even students that people would say, are you sure they're going to be okay? They're great on the trip because the trip is so much fun. And so they want to be there, so they do what it takes to make sure they're there. The only thing I ask, just be a good person. If you're a good person, get on the trip with us. We love to have you. If you're going to be a pain, please don't sign up. That's the easiest way I can tell you. We want the opportunity for everybody, but we also want to make sure that the trip is there for the right people. Now, you're going to receive something called a medical form. You'll get this in September. Now, that medical form will just look like this. And the only thing that I ask on there is make sure that you're super honest on there. So we no longer, because we're no longer ran through the school, the medical forms, I just go through all of them and we just work with you, the parent and the guardian, and then the student to make sure that we know that the students are getting the right meds that they need. And so a lot more details will come out about that, but just know that we take care of that. And we have a person on our trip, one of our chaperones, who even is assigned to check the medical stuff. So each day they may have to check in with students. Did you take your meds? Who has it? What dose? All that kind of stuff. So you'll see that in early September. And the reason we don't do that too early anymore is just things change. In the 6 months, like if I was going to take a med form now and then not need it until next October, a ton changes between now and then. So we just started handing them out in September now. Now, if you're familiar with our trip, you know that we do a ton of fundraising. So we try to offer 2 to 3 fundraisers a year. Now, we've also already done one butter braid this year. We'll do another fundraiser here in the winter, and then we'll do another one towards the end, more towards summer, our summer break. And so just kind of keep your ears open. We'll try to get those through announcements and through the teachers at school to make sure the students know of those opportunities. Now, the other things that I'm putting on here, this flag financial assistant, this gift of education letter, these are ways that your student can raise funds. Now, this flag financial assistant, this is a World Strides program that I don't even know much about. They just give it to us. They never even tell me if anybody applies, gets it. I know nothing once other than I give you the information. But if you make under $85,000 a year, they have scholarships available that can help students get on the trip. Now, again, I have no idea if our students are in that program, win money on that program, are offered money on that program. I just give that to you so that you can do with it what you want. Now, this gift of education letter, this one's a little bit different. This is kind of a cool little thing where, let's say, the holidays are coming up. And instead of a sweater that they're never going to wear, your student wants somebody to donate towards their trip. Well, this gift of education letter, as you click on there, it'll come up with a letter that just says, hey, so and so, and you can do it e-card, Facebook, fundraiser, whatever it is. It's just saying, hey, I'm going on this trip. If you'd like to donate to it, here you go. Here's my link. And that money goes right to your account. So that's put right to your account through World Strides. Again, I have nothing to do with the money, thank goodness. That all goes through World Strides. And so if you want to take advantage of that, that's a good plan too. I've seen some students have a lot of success with that one. Now, I talked about this earlier, canceling your student, but like I said before, if you're going to cancel and you are before the start of school, it's always a good idea to contact me first, unless you have the trip insurance. If you have the trip insurance, they'll handle it for you. Now, they will keep your money for a long time though, so don't expect a full refund like that next week. I've seen it take about a month, and that's typical with companies this size. And so just know that you're not going to get it right away. But if you are canceling and you don't have trip insurance before school, let me know and I'll try to see what I can do too. Now, on this trip, the students will be in a room. Typically, we have 4 people to a room, so 2 queen beds with 4 people. Now, we choose roommates in September. And then parents, guardians, you're going to have a chance to double check those roommates and make sure that your student made a good selection. And so we'll handle that in September, but typically we're 4 to a room. But if we have 52, obviously that doesn't divide by, or actually that does. So say we have 50. If we don't, it doesn't go cleanly into 4 to divide by it. And so then we'd have a couple rooms of 3, maybe a room of 2, depending on how that room breaks down with the numbers. But just expect that they'll be in a room of 4 and they choose their roommates. We do not choose their roommates for them unless they have a situation where they don't have a room of 4 and we have to combine people. Okay. Now, our final parent meeting, we tried to be super upfront and give you a ton of details. And so our final parent meeting will be about 2 weeks before that final trip. You won't hear much from us other than for fundraising from now until about next September, because now's just kind of that time period where people are signing up, organizing the trip. We're working with World Strides, getting everything in, but we don't have much, to tell you other than fundraiser stuff or to make sure people are making their payments, things like that. But that's all through World Strides. And so that should hopefully give you a pretty good idea of everything about the trip. We're super excited about it. Our chaperones are super excited. I'm so thankful to have Mr. Bauman and Mr. Foss kind of helping me out on a lot of this stuff this year. But the students at Cottage Grove Middle, you'll still see me. I'll still get there for like your roommate selection days and stuff like that. And don't hesitate to reach out or ask if you have any questions too. You have my email here. You have my phone number here. I would much rather have you be informed and make an informed decision rather than just saying, yes, we're going, and then having a million questions later and not knowing the answers to it. So let me know, reach out if you need anything. I would love the opportunity to have your student come with us on the trip as long as as excited as we are about it. Because, like I said, being over 20 years going on this, I have not gotten sick of this place one time, and I still think it's the greatest experience for students. So I try to cover everything in this video. If there's anything that I missed, reach out, let me know, and I'll be sure to answer that for you. Again, my name is Darren Ryder. Thanks for making it this far and possibly considering sending your student with us on the DC trip. Let us know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your day.